Welcome into the Hudl. My name is Coach Hayes. Along with me and Head on a Swivel is Scott Green, and we're going to do a rapid reaction show of the Alabama UGA SEC Championship. What a great opportunity we saw tonight. We saw great things happening. I think there's this cliche of, the monkey is off the back now. The psyche's changed completely from what we saw and what we experienced this Saturday in Atlanta. Can't wait for you to be a part and come in and talk to us and give us your feedback as well. Me and Scott will be back on the flip side here in a second. Well, it's great to be a Georgia Bulldog. I know that, when I look back and I see all the things that happened this evening, I'm straight off getting out of the car from the garage into my room here to get online. A little late getting out of the Atlanta traffic, but what a great experience to be in Mercedes-Benz, to be able to see all the great things that we saw tonight that we've been wanting to see from this Georgia football team. And of all things, I know, Scott, we kind of have to retract now after what we said previous week after the Georgia Tech game, to be an SEC champion and to not only do that, but in the boundaries of what we've been dealing with, that box that we felt like we've been sort of compartmentalized with the Alabama Crimson Tide. What a great opportunity. It's awesome to see us as SEC champions. I think it's 3 out of the last 5 years for Coach Smart. What a great opportunity for these guys and just a wonderful night of football. Scott, welcome in, brother. How you doing this evening? Let me hear you.
Coach, I'm not one to kind of push on physicality and how that metric can't be measured and people undervalue it. But I hope this game, surely for the most casual fan, understands physicality trumps all.
Yes.
I have not seen a Bama team like this have players truly to shy away from contact. The backup running back that was filling in for Jam Miller, he definitely didn't want any more of CJ Allen. A lot of the hits, a lot of the throwdowns. Like, look, again, Bama's still a very good team. Bama is highly technical. They do a lot of stuff right, but they live and die on Ty Simpson's shoulders. And to affect him that often and that early, especially with how young Georgia is, I think that's one thing that I think has truly changed this back half of the season is the coaches started to trust them on the fundamentals. And so you saw them play more and you see how quickly and drastically that changes everything. I mean, Ellis Robinson. I mean, obviously Dalen Everett and some of the veteran players can, CJ Allen continue to be who we thought they were. But then you look at Tolliver today, something that we are all throwing the red flag on. And just to win more reps than you lose against a veteran defensive line. Look, let Bama talk about, hey, look, we had injuries, so on and so forth. Without Noah Thomas, without Colby Young, without Drew Bobo, and you go up and down to how young Georgia's defensively, and then you do that to them, I'm like you, Coach. Look, this could be the stepping stone to finally put that demon behind us and for us to realize, look, if we play mistake-free, these are the way these games turn out. The last two, multiple turnovers. One this last time, a critical turnover. And the margin of victory was that critical turnover. You shut them down in the second half. And so, again, tons of positives to take away. Absolutely agree. Hank's awesome win for the Dawgs, especially in this critical moment. Because I know in the back of my mind, and I would love to hear your insight, Coach. Look, I was afraid the Dawgs would come in. Look, we've already made it. We don't need to worry about that. But they truly took this as a revenge game. I mean, Nate Frazier to get hit as many times as he did, the way he did. And that's the thing, man. Looking at the rest of these conference championships, I think everyone's starting to realize, look, the narrative that was spun around a lot of these teams isn't true, not because they're not great, not because they're not elite, but you see them playing comparable talent for the first time this season. Now, the ACC, who the heck knows what happens with them? I know that the committee wants Miami in so bad they can taste it. But, say Duke continues to win. They're up by 7 right now, I believe. So that can change chaotically. And you look, I think Bama is in, but could something drastically change if something gets spun up? Because Notre Dame's not going to get punished for not playing, as stupid as that is. But I'm so glad Georgia just handled business in a way that made it so definitive and so clear who the better team is, especially at this point in the season. I mean, outstanding job.
If you look at the mirror reflection of a fourth week when we played them, and then you turn around and look at where we played now, I really feel like you watched a team grow up over 7-8 weeks that we were very skeptical about, that lost by 3 at home. We had questions. We were scratching our head. And all of a sudden, watch them now in week 13, and you're going, that's the team that we wanted to see grow up, because we saw the defensive prowess that just changed the complete dimension of this game. When you look at the fact that you're dealing with a lot of these kids that you're rotating in, Zayden Walker, for some odd reason, Janelle Aguero's obviously, I guess, got banged up this week. He wasn't on the injury report, but how about Rashawn Deakins going in and doing his job out there at the nickel position? They didn't, it seems to me they didn't even know that, hey, you got a kid out there that you could probably kind of pick on, and they didn't even try to pick on him. And when they did, he was in place. He always seemed to be in place. But you and I talked about this. This was something that we knew. Ty Simpson saw a different defensive front against him tonight versus what he saw in week 4. We caused havoc all night long. 3 sacks, 2 halves. I think Quinn got to him. I know we had the sack with Zayden Walker. I know Jacory came down on the Swiss off the backside, the strong safety blitz, and then got to the quarterback. And then there was another half from Quinn's side. I can't recall who that might be, but a total of 3 sacks tonight. But we were constantly causing him pressure. He couldn't sit like he did in week 3, week 4, whatever week they played us. And that is, I told you that to me, that was going to be the difference maker in the game. Really thought we did a good job of trying to establish the run. It was a very simplistic view from Gunner. He was going to try to get the ball out quick, let guys be playmakers. But bottom line is, I think we just saw a difference defensively from this group that changed the complete dynamics of what Alabama wanted to do tonight. And they really did not have an answer as the game went on. You thought there would be some adjustments here or there, but, I was really surprised as the game went on that we seemed to sink in and lock in and root in, where Alabama was not making those adjustments and figuring anything out. And it felt really good because, I've talked to you more than once about the fact of, you got to take a possession away from them. We did that tonight. We set up short fields on the block punt by Cole Spear, Calhoun High School native, Calhoun High School. Great kid from a great family. Has done his job, just goes in every day, blue-collar kid. I coached him in middle school, believe it or not. But great kid for the program, and has just done what is asked of him, and comes in big with a block punt that sets up the short field for one of the touchdowns. Then it turns around where you have the interception, which was crazy. You get both of them face mask each other, but we get called for the face mask where we should be on the plus 30, and we end up being back behind midfield. But we still, what I told everybody that day is that if we do get the turnover and we take a possession away from them, we have got to capitalize on it. And by God, even though we got the penalty that put us back over midfield, we still go down and score on that. The middle eight was good to us tonight as well. Maybe not necessarily as much in the first half, but in the second half, it was a lot better for us because we had the opportunity to make them go 3 and out. And then we took the ball down the field and ended up scoring where Nate Frazier ends up capitalizing on that nice run. But just really just excited to see the transition of this football program from where we witnessed them in weeks 3 and 4 to where they are now.
Absolutely. And I think one of the key points is, like you talked about early on, 3 and outs, making Bama's life really difficult, being hyper aggressive in everything that they did. I mean, look, I'm not one to talk about refs, but I think if a Bama fan, you gave them truth serum, they would openly say, look, we don't score on that team without multiple flags on the same series over and over again. Some of them very ticky-tack, not a fan of that. But look, guys, hitting a very good to great to elite quarterback will speed up their internal clock. And by Georgia touching Ty over and over and over and making those white jerseys the first thing he sees after the snap, that totally mitigates something that didn't happen prior to. And that's where Ty was so good, is he methodically just chewed us apart. And then we would look at it, hey, the DBs, this and that. It's like, guys, look, you can only cover for so long. Bama's got a lot of great players. The one thing that I'm really, really happy with is, look, guys, don't undervalue this offensive performance. Bama's defense has been playing lights out over and over. Womack deserves a ton of credit. Where I'm very, very interested when we go to the film review eventually, coaches, it seemed like Bama came in with the same game plan of, look, we're going to crossing route them to death. We're going to do just enough on the ground to make sure they honor it. But just with how hyper physical Georgia was, you actually saw several Bama players drop the ball because they were thinking about moving forward. Who's going to hit me? Who's going to be there? Over and over and over again. And look, Georgia still can get better. Guys, KJ left 2 interceptions on the field today. And that is not easy. You intercept the ball from Ty Simpson, you better keep it. And like you said, Coach, one thing that has always frustrated me about Georgia teams that weren't meant to go super deep into the playoffs is they never truly capitalized on errors. They would always, get three, steal possession, but not do anything with it, just kind of reset the field. Well, today, understand, Georgia fans, we watched a team earn every single thing the entire 60 minutes. And you watched Bama, play as physical as they could, but you twisted their arm and made them say uncle to the point where you could see specific players who did not want to go through with the right thing out of fear of what was coming. I mean, that backup running back I saw, I don't know how many times he just J hooks to set up pass pro, and it didn't seem like he wanted anything to do with number 3 or number 5.
When you see the team leading tackles, we'll talk about the defense here in just a second, but it was nice to see, you've got Jacory, you got Chris Cole, you got Raylan Wilson, and you got CJ Allen. I coached to CJ Bell. I say that name so many times, but CJ Allen, they're the top 4 in tackles. That's what you want to see leading your team in tackles is your strong safety and 3 of your linebackers. So great opportunity today with KJ Bolden, being that staple that he is behind that coming up because of what they do in that cover 5 look that I really like, where they feel when they bring backers for 4 and 5 man pressure. I'm Chris. He's Scott. We're Head on a Swivel. We're giving you a rapid reaction of the Georgia win over Alabama in the SEC championship. This part right here, this segment is sponsored by Georgia Sports Autographs. We'll be right back after this small commercial.
Georgia Sports Autographs is built by collectors for collectors. They know what fans want because they've been in your shoes, hunting for that perfect piece, the right signature in the right spot. At every signing, Georgia Sports Autographs make sure it's done right, using the proper ink, following best practices, and paying attention to every detail so you end up with a product you'll be proud to display. They've already worked with many of Georgia's top athletes, and their network gives them access to just about anything you can imagine. If you don't see it listed, don't assume it can't be done. Chances are they can get it for you. Georgia Sports Autograph tests themselves with every event, always improving, always delivering for the ultimate addition to your collection. Trust the team that treats every autograph like its own. Georgia Sports Autographs, where every signature tells a story.
Welcome back. My name is Chris Hayes. This is Scott Green. We are Head on a Swivel, and we're doing a rapid reaction of the Georgia Alabama SEC championship. And of course, Georgia takes care of business 28-7 over the Crimson Tide. I pulled up some stats real quick, just very quickly, to have an understanding of where we were. It was obvious that with Chauncey being back in, I really thought that was going to be a very nice 1-2 punch. But it seemed tonight, oddly enough, that we used everybody, I think, in the rhythms of the game and sort of the way the niches, sort of how they rotated in the game. When it was Josh McCray, it was Josh McCray. When it's Nate's still continuing to grow and improve. That kid has learned so much from the beginning of the year to now. It's why you see him up at the top of the board. Of course, using Gunner in his legs as well. And I apologize for my voice, ladies and gentlemen. I've been screaming at the game. I was actually at the game tonight, left Atlanta traffic, came straight home and jumped on the computer for rapid reaction. I told Scott, I said, I don't care what time it is, let's do it. So we're on here talking. But, you look at the groupings there. We know Noah Thomas was out with the back spasms, obviously couldn't go. But, I sit there and look at those staples that you continually have in a game, and there's typically those unspokens that you don't think about. Who in the world would have thought that we would have broke through tonight with our first touchdown to Roderick Robinson off the play action boot? Basically, we ran what's called 106 flood, where he comes out of the backfield as a fullback, looks like he's blocking power, gets lost in transition into the flat, and we fake the down and just dump it to him. Roderick Robinson with the first touchdown of the night. Offensively, I don't think Gunner's all inspiring with his numbers passing yards wise, but 3 touchdown passes that he threw out there as well. And they were very simple passes, but still, nonetheless, I think his throw to Dylan Bell on the second touchdown was very nice across the middle on that little dig, and very precise and very accurate. But overall, just your take offensively from what you saw tonight, Scott.
I think people don't need to undervalue the loss of Noah Thomas and him being in standby. Like, if we absolutely need him, he can go. And seeing all these young guys. I mean, look, guys, Georgia's receiving is built off several key things. Obviously, get the ball to your playmakers, but to spread the ball around, make it really difficult for a defense to hone in on, okay, what's going to be the primary and secondary here? What are they liking to do? And here's the major difference in even both games this year. Georgia out rushing Bama in a massive, massive way. And Bama's defense deserves a lot of credit because how much better they have gotten against the run. But understand, guys, you did this with Tolliver, another freshman in Glover, and another freshman in,
Gaston.
going down to Gaston. And then you had Ernest Green who stepped up. You guys are still watching a team figure out its personnel situations this late into the season, and it only continues to get better. Now, again, I completely agree. Gunnar didn't have an outstanding game with all the stats and everything, but the throw to Dylan Bell, absolutely outstanding.
Yep.
Being smart with the football as much as he was. There was only a few plays where the ball was batted that I would say, they're not ill-advised throws. It was just a heck of a play. And normally, Bama, through all the grace of God and all the luck in the world, would get that somehow. Some linebacker would be out of position and then realize the ball got batted and take it. That's the thing about this game that's so special to me. Georgia playing Bama has always played at C-, C+ game, lost in a heartbreak, and they never took the game from Bama. Well, not only did they take the game tonight, they took it in a big way and held on to it. And look, doing what they did to Ty Simpson was just absolutely unbelievable. To have an offense finish -3 rushing overall is absolutely outstanding. You could do that against a mid-major opponent. You should deserve credit. And exactly right. Simpson was hurried and pressured all night long. And I give so much kudos to Glenn Schumann. I give so much kudos to Kirby for refraining from becoming, conservative and maintaining that aggression for 60 minutes. And look, Nate Frazier deserves all the love in the world. I remember early on, the first 4 or 5 weeks, everyone's saying, oh, the ball on the ground, this, that, and the other. And look, we need this time. Based off this game right now, based on where the team is, this extra time is so critical to get Noah Face back in, to make sure Chauncey's, injury isn't, going to be nagging him. Hopefully we can get him back up to speed because we need that 1-2 punch. But to do that against a defense like this, that has absolutely been peaking throughout, because early on you kind of knew what they were, and now they've changed things. I don't want to hear anything about injuries. I don't want to hear anything. Both teams came in like they had a Grady Hospital wristband on, and Georgia walked out absolutely walking away with it.
Yes. And that's the difference of what you see from the offensive standpoint. I think you did everything right. You can't say that it was really a conservative gameplay. I think there was just willingness of what they wanted to do against Alabama, being able to take care of all the overstuff, the zone concepts that they were trying to get to as well. But, I think Gunnar played within himself. He made the plays when he needed to. I think they were going to rely on Dylan Bell as sort of that gadget runner tonight. Chauncey Bowens was in a situation tonight as well where, he wasn't necessarily counted on, but when he did do his job, he was doing a great job of it. He went out there and ran the ball very well. Thank you, my lady. Well, that was my wife coming in right there. So I think it broke the camera, actually. I don't know what happened. There we go. I'm back. So nonetheless, it was great to see, just those little niches that you want to see from all the different players, from a Roderick Robinson catch to the bluff on the Fox play, and we get a big conversion to Lawson Lucky down the sideline, to all the things that really, if you think about it, Dylan Bell today was highly beneficial for the offense, and normally he's not necessarily the guy you're looking to go to. So all these trend values that typically an offense works around, and all of a sudden you're throwing a ball to Roderick Robinson for a touchdown. Dylan Bell's got more totes than Nate Frazier does, and what they're trying to do with him as well. It was just very unique in its design to see how we implemented the offense tonight, and it was very effective in how it went. I think we lost Scott right there. Let's see if we get him back. Scott, I'm going to try to get you back here, buddy.
Sorry about that little technical error there, Mike.
No worries, my friend. We're good to go. But still, though, it was very nice to see us have the ability to, like I said, when we needed to make the play, we did. And like you said, I think it was so huge when we finally got that turnover, the pick, regardless of the flag, that we capitalized on it with a touchdown. We took a possession away from them, and we capitalized it with points on our end. So very good job across the board from the offensive side of the ball. Switching over to the defensive side, I think it's obvious, as you can see here, I got Ja'Cory, CJ, Chris, Raylan, KJ leading the team in tackles. We obviously got Zayden Walker. I believe it was Gabe Harris had the other half with Quinn, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, Ja'Cory coming off that strong safety blitz, what I call basically a Swiss, coming down off that backside and getting to Ty Simpson. Of course, there was another one that was taken away from the DeMello Jones personal foul call that would have been a sack as well, unfortunately. But defensively, I can't say enough about the growth. We talked about it, but now it's been put into fruition. To have it in such a big arena, SEC championship game, a team that right now seems to have us psyched out. Everybody's talked about, Kirby's 1-7 against Bama. And I don't care, even if the Bama fans, if that's all the laurels they can hide on for the next year is, well, we're 2-7 against Kirby. I don't give a rat's ass. We went in there, took care of business. I'm tired of hearing it. And now to me, that proverbial monkey is off the back. And I think it's just going to open up everything that we have going into every game. Because I know everybody says every game you try to treat the same way. We look at every team that we play as hard as we can. We're going to do the best we can. But there was something about this team that realistically, it was just a refreshing feeling to not only beat them the way we did, but to be the team that it was that we were beating the way we were. And so it's just all of those things together kind of just gives every Georgia fan walking away from this just a very nice feeling totality-wise. But defense was lights out tonight. Kudos to Rashawn Dinkins playing the strong safety position. True freshman came in at the same time Dontrell Glover came in. These guys came in July, guys, and started playing in August, right at the beginning of September. So, I'm sitting there just in awe of what these kids are able to do. So shout out Rashawn Dinkins. I believe he's a Warner Robins kid, if I'm not mistaken. Dontrell, obviously out of Langston Hughes. And like you was talking about a while ago, I mean, you look at Zayden Walker, from Schley County. I mean, you just look at all these kids that are coming out there and doing their job. I mean, you couldn't be more tickled pink with the veterans and what we're seeing in these young bucks and how they've grown. Oh, my goodness. How could you not walk away from that game feeling great about your defensive play?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all those young guys who stepped up in such a big way was almost unfathomable if we went back to week 5 and just did a litmus test of, hey, Georgia fans, where are you feeling at? And now you see them not only be fundamentally sound, but just be freakish athletes while hunting physicality. I'm going to keep harping on this. That defense genuinely made Bama regret being on that field more often than not. And to kudos to the defense for not letting that nonsense, some of those ticky-tack calls, clear it. Again, Georgia did, commit penalties that obviously were kind of boneheaded. Obviously, Kirby, let Jones know that. But understand, guys, Bama doesn't score if they don't get 30 yards and penalties there. They don't touch it. In fact, there was another critical interception, I believe, in that same sequence that they just dropped. KJ could have had. I mean, truly the ability for these freshmen and sophomores to not only step up in a massive way, but to do it so fundamentally sound while maintaining physicality. This is such a huge testament, not only the players for buying in, but the coaching staff that understood, look, hey, early on, we're going to have to do some things we're probably not comfortable with, things that we may not like, just due to that lack of personnel, that lack of trust. And hey, if I put him in, I don't really know A to Z of what he's going to do. Well, by golly, now you know. And what's really, really great about this game is you not only get the demon off your back, you're so young, you can only guess that they're going to get that much better. And I'm not going to talk about next year, but let's just talk about the next few weeks leading into, the months of the playoffs. Guys, young guys are the ones who make the biggest jumps. And so I think you only continue to see them make massive jumps. And tonight, be very cautious and very careful. Don't overanalyze or underanalyze the other conference title games. But look at what other teams are doing. Look at their deficiencies. Tonight, Georgia just stuck with what worked. They didn't do anything overtly crazy, but at the same time, they executed through that raw physicality. And ask yourself, is there any team out there that you think is more physical than Georgia at this point in the season?
I'm going to say this. Kirby said it back in late August before we started the first game that we played, that he wanted to run the football and he wanted to stop the run. By God, tonight, if you look at Ty Simpson maybe throwing for 150-something yards, 160-something yards, they had -3 yards rushing. -3. Guys, you can't win ball games when you're one-dimensional. That helps your guys be able to tee off and get after your quarterback, which is essential, and you love that. Your playbook is wide open defensively when you have and you know that 75 to 80% of the reps you're getting are going to be passing reps, and you're able to bring just exotic blitzes. You can bring simulated pressures. You can bring 5- and 6-man pressure. They didn't have to necessarily do that tonight because they got to the quarterback with 4-man pressure. And that's something you can do so much in the secondary and at linebacker level when you got the 4 guys that are lining down and getting to the quarterback. -3 yards rushing. Now, I know they were without Jim Miller. I know they were without the Riley kid, which was their reliable number 2. It was obvious that there was on a struggle bus trying to run the football. Like you said earlier, it's just trying to do enough to try to make us honor it a little bit, but I don't think we honored it at all night long. And you could tell as time went on, it just allowed us to tee back and just pin our ears back and get after the quarterback. And that was something that was essential. -3 yards rushing, man. You just got to give it to Coach Shu. That's the reason why I get so upset when I hear people that want to jump off the ledge after ball games, like 4th and 5th game of the year. Because I was right there with Glenn Schumann, because I was trying to think, what are you doing differently with these younger bucks that these older guys are doing? Nothing. He's doing the same thing. He's trying to figure out the chemistry between those guys and what makes them better. What do I do with those guys when they're in the game, like a Zayden Walker or Chris Cole comes in and changes that up? When we want to move KJ down in the box and bring an inside linebacker as part of the 4-man pressure and pull Quinn out as the jack, what meshes right? And guess what? It takes ball games and playing ball games to fit that, to figure that out. And to me, that's what I'm seeing in week 13 is a defense now that has solidified where, you feel like, just like with Bobo and Stockton, you feel like I'm beginning to mesh with this guy. I see what he does well, and I want to put him in good, positive, comfortable plays that he feels good at doing. It's the same thing defensively. All of a sudden, man, we know what they're going to bring. We're going to put these guys in the right spots, and all of a sudden you're seeing Zayden Walker make a play. You're seeing Rashawn Dinkins playing. I mean, he's a true freshman playing against Alabama in the SEC championship, covering the number 2 receiver. He was on Ryan Williams. He was on the tight end. I saw him covering Isaiah Horton. It just goes to show the level of trust that these guys put into it. And when one guy's out, the next guy's in. And that's much to my chagrin too, Scott, because I know you and I both were sort of feeling sorry for ourselves after the Georgia Tech game. We saw those, those woes offensively. We looked very stagnant. Drew Bobo getting hurt. Hey, we need more time to heal. That's on me, not taking the same mentality that Coach Smart has. We're playing for the SEC championship. Texas A&M didn't get it done. So by God, we're going to go play for the freaking SEC championship. And lo and behold, here we are, 3-time SEC championship in the last 5 years. Proud for the program, proud for these guys and their growth. I'm glad that Coach Schumann hasn't changed a bit. He's still doing what's right by him. And honestly, I think this has helped elevate him as the years gone on, because he's taking these guys, putting them in the right place. And man, they're going out and executing and playing fine ball right now.
Absolutely. And just to go, to the other side of the ball for the Crimson Tide, I felt like they tried to run the same game plan and truly thought, look, week 4 worked. This is what we're going to do. A lot of crossing routes that got shut down. And when you really notice who was stopping, Ellis is very young. Dinkins is very young. Johnson, Gabe, go up and down and see how many young guys made critical plays time and time again. I could not believe seeing the numbers I did. And there were specific plays. I think one's a great example. Ty bails out. He's athletic enough to cause you some issues on the ground. Zayden Walker just screeches down and snags him. And those are the critical plays that makes Bama's life really, really hard, especially this year, because they're not able to do that. Half of that offense doesn't exist. And look, Jam Miller's in. I don't care who's in. We could turn the film back onto a worse defense in week 4, and I can tell you what that running game would have done, even with Jam in. Okay, maybe the pass pro. Okay, totally get it. What do you think my center's doing? My centers might call the slide protect. Everything else has now been compounded on a red shirt freshman next to 2 freshmen. So that whole demon's gone. Oh, without JMO and Mechie, without so-and-so, without Marv. Look, guys, this is part of football. And if your entire team relies on one human being or 3 when there's 11 different people on that side of the ball, your system's flawed. You're going to get caught at some point. You have to be a whole team effort. And I think what truly encompasses that is those young guys putting their nose down, hitting the grindstone, making sure that they're getting better week in, week out, and all those veterans being very stable. And then once those young guys come in, now they can really explode. They're not having to worry about those issues. And look, kudos to Gunner. However people feel about him, understand this man would chop off his left arm if you told him it resulted in a Georgia national title. He loves and does everything he possibly can to prepare. I know one of the statements Gunner made was, look, me and Tolliver did a lot of walkthroughs even in our suits. I knew from a moment, hey, look, I'm going to throw a little pity party for Georgia Tech because I knew there was more opportunities there. Gunner didn't play well at all. But this is a big but. I knew Gunner was going to give everything he could this game. And when he had to make plays, he made them. And again, revenge tour for Nate Frazier as well. the hits he took and got up and continued to run people over. I mean, guys, you can't teach that. Like, you can teach the fundamentals of ball security. You hope, hey, look, don't make that mistake again. But that's just a want to. And that's the thing that's intangible about this team. Look, however you feel, take into context here. This is a 46 to 48% freshman team. That has to excite you based on what you've seen, because you see all the other SEC teams, the talent is being dispersed throughout. They're dealing with a lot more stability in a lot of areas. And then Georgia comes in this year when people on CBS were telling us, hey, this is going to be the worst season Kirby's had since year one. And now you turn the tape on and you're 12-1 and you're a back-to-back SEC champion and you beat Alabama's brains in to do it.
Yep. Another thing I was going to say too before we close up shop. First off, we are head on a swivel. I'm Chris, he's Scott, and you guys were trying to bring a rapid reaction of the Georgia Alabama SEC championship. If you hear my voice, it's a little hoarse because I was actually at the game, left Atlanta and all that traffic, and tried my best to get home as fast as I could. We signed in real quickly, and we're trying just to bring you some ideas. And, one thing that I'm going to be looking forward to is the breakdowns going forward. I'm very interested to see how Malachi Tolliver played defensively. I'm going to love to see what Rashawn Dinkins did more of. I think we're going to see even better stuff from the front that I even saw live, because I was seeing where they were bringing the pressure from. I was watching those little mismatches that were taking place. I was watching all the different things with motion, pre-snap candy, and was really just impressed with these young bucks doing their job, switching off man responsibilities to zones, all those kinds of things going together. And, just really, I'm just very interested to see how the tape pulls out once we get to that part. But, I think to myself, when we got, I have to say this, the one thing to me that Alabama did that just absolutely made me scratch my head, why does Kalen DeBoer go for it on the minus about, 12, 13-yard line?
12, 13-yard line.
With 8 minutes to go in the game, down 2 scores. I know you kind of seem desperate right there, but you're still in the ball game with 2 touchdowns. I know they hadn't done anything, but you got a chance. I get it. If it's 3 minutes, maybe you might not have another possession, but 8 minutes in the game, you punt it back to them. It's changing field position. You almost, and like I said, the play selection wasn't the best, but, it turns around for a short field for us. And honestly, they did a good job of holding us out until we threw the jailbreak screen to Zachariah. And only Zachariah Branch scores on that, guys. I want to tell you that right now. There's no other player we have on that team that does what Zachariah does on that play to score. He's so shifty in space. He made 2 guys miss. He had to end up changing his reroute off of it because of the way it was being blocked. And he just made people miss. I mean, we haven't had that kind of dimension since Ladd, to me, in space. And then on top of that, to explode and get to the zone. Because even when he changed his speed or changed his cut to get north and south, all of a sudden you saw those guys just whiffing for air because his speed. He took off and his speed was back up to pace in his second step. So, that's something to me that I thought was very impressive. Not only, obviously, them going for it, couldn't believe that they did it, but, us, again, capitalizing on the turnover on downs, giving us the ball on the plus 12, basically, and getting another touchdown in that regards as well. But Zachariah Branch, to me, is the only kid that can score that play on that third down play inside the zone.
Absolutely, including the effort of Lawson Luck. You blocked 2 guys to make it available. So that's the thing that was super impressed to me is you cannot have another set of people to make the same plays as you did tonight. So that means not only did you hit on them, you're developing them into something. Because I remember prior to week 1, Zachariah Branch is a nobody. He couldn't do anything at USC. Georgia doesn't use their tight ends correctly. No one's Brock Bowers. Look, guys, this team is playing so hard for each other, and they understand how many special players there are on this team. But for that to be showcased, everyone has to do their job. And I'm telling you, what adds to the real cherry on top is to know that Georgia out-physicaled Bama for 60 minutes, and that Bama had no answer for what Georgia brought to the table.
I was going to answer this question. This is from Chase White, 7775. He reached out to you, Scott, and actually, I guess he might know you a little bit. He was excited to see you there on the screen. Says, Coach, how would you combat all the penalties? It's one of those mental game kind of things. When you coach that up in practice, you always do things when things are going great. We'd always simulate flags all the time in team, in your inside drills, stuff like that, to basically see how you're going to react to it, because it's such a mental thing. And unfortunately, you never know. You can't let the white hats dictate the game. That's the reason why over time I've tried my best, even though I felt like there was some, and of course Bama fans were crying too about 2 or 3 different ones that happened. And as Scott said earlier, basically we assisted them down the field with 2 15-yard penalties. One, on the fence. The other one was legitimate. I hate to say it, but Dontrell Glover's got his hand. I remember the hands to the face. I mean, that was there. It happens every play, but it just so happens it was right in the spectacle of the white hat. But you have DeMelo Jones have the pass interference, the DPI, but he also has the personal foul, unsportsmanlike there after the play, after the sack we got that basically should have stalled the drive for them to punt. You've got, as a head coach and as assistant coach, you can never let the kids see you down about that. You've got to be ready to go to the next play. You've got to stay motivated. You go back to what happened like with Hugh Freeze at Auburn. You saw him at the end of that game. He was so deflated going in at halftime that it even mentioned it to the reporter. That's a no-no. That's like 101, don't do that kind of stuff. That's something that comes from your head coach down. You can't let those things bother you. You got to make them focus on the next play. It's just like when you have a turnover on downs, like you've gone out there and you've done something and you punted the football away. And of course, eventually over time, you get the ball back and say on the second play from scrimmage, you turn the ball over and the defense has just come off the field and you've got to get the defense right back out there. It's that same principle. There's all that mental toughness that's created in practice, and it is reflected by how you're coaching on the field, because if they see you down, if they see you deflated, if they see you overreacting to it, that puts them in a state of overreaction as well. And you got to stay calm, cool, and collective. As much as I hated to see it, because of, to me, up to that point, we have basically played a very, penalty-free game. It was not, and even though I think we actually got penalized almost 80 total yards, I think Bama only had like 5 yards of penalties. I think there was only like 5 yards of penalty. It was very minimal. But still, though, it was one of those things where from that point on, that drive basically assisted them down the field to eventually score. You can't get down about that. It happens. You bring those kids off the field. DeMelo Jones probably didn't have his best game of the night, obviously, because I know he missed that tackle on Ryan Williams, having him in man-to-man. Then he had the DPI, obviously, the sportsmanlike conduct. So those are the things you bring them over, and you have the come-to-Jesus meetings with them on the sidelines. You talk them up. You good cop, bad cop the situation. You let them know you love them, but you chew their ass too in the process, and you get them back out on the field to start executing. And when the kids see that, when they see that reflection, it makes them go out and carry out that same persona that you carry out. Because you can't get into a yeah contest, or what, for lack of better words, a pissing contest with a referee about the way they call a game. They can be undisciplined, and there's a difference in that and causing a lot of penalty situations that you can't ill afford to have, especially in a big game. But when you have those situations where it kind of assisted them down the field, you got to go to the next play. You got to have short-term memory. You got to correct the mistakes when they get off the field, and you just go from there. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people want to dwell on those things. I can't tell you, and Scott knows this as well. You'll see it on Twitter the next day, and I try my best to stay away from it, where you'll have somebody freeze frame a play and they want to show you the holding call, or they want to show you the hands to the face, or they want to show you, defensive pass interference. Guys, it happens every game. There's a lot of objectiveness to how referees call the ball game. There's same things that we've seen over the years in the Alabama games that we've played. UGA's played in the SEC championship, national championship, even going back to the 2017 national championship, 2018 game. I mean, there's so many different things that come from that. But it all comes back to how the head coaches handle it, how the coaches handle it, and the kids reflect that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And just ended on this, I'm going to fan, a little bit here and be conspiratorial. So Georgia's one of the least penalized teams in the SEC. Bama's more on the high end. And then you saw that flip. Now, that's kind of a trade of aggressiveness. So I will say, hey, look, there are a few coaches saying, hey, look, this is a legit call. You're just being aggressive. Unfortunately, like Coach said, it happens every play, but they just caught you. I'm telling you guys, it has to be the most demoralizing thing being either a Bama fan or Bama player, knowing the only points that we had were because Georgia made critical mistakes. In fact, they really stopped us, and those penalties reset something. It'd be different if a PI was drawn, on a clear play that hits the guy in the hands, and Jones is just wearing the other guy's back. I didn't see any of those. And in fact, there was a lot of plays that were ticky-tack, but the way to mitigate that is to continue to be aggressive. And like Coach said, next play, it really doesn't matter. If you're that much better than someone, even though Tyler Simmons was on sides, you got to push through it, beat them so convincingly that no one can say anything to you anymore, refs included.
Very well said. And if you have that mentality, most of the time it's not ever going to be a question that the refs dictate who wins the ball game. It says question, and I love the way Gunner is playing. Why do you think we have so many design runs for Gunner today and in the tech game as well? You want to go ahead with that one, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. I think having a +1 runner and establishing that early makes life hell for a lot of the defenders, because
Yep.
now they're constantly thinking with that message in the back of their mind, look, he could take it. He could take it. I can't do this. I can't play too aggressive here because he can punish me with like a 5-yard, 6-yard run that puts us in critical down and distances. And see, that's the thing, guys, winning the first down and able to establish leaning on Bama's defense when it really mattered was everything. And so, again, I'm not saying Gunner is going to be the next great NFL quarterback, but what I am saying is his ability to run well enough and to remain physical in that run game, which, again, I want to be careful because there was a targeting, non-called targeting call that kind of had me worried there for a minute. He's getting up, kind of squinting his eyes, but that +1 runner in that whole system creates so much more chaos and conflict for those defenders. And while they're getting leaned on, while they're getting pushed around, now they got to think, look, it's always two backs. You have to think of it truly as two running backs that one can throw. And if you don't, you get punished for it. And I thought it was a genius way, also, too, to kind of get Gunner's confidence back. It seemed like the last 2 weeks he's just been a little hesitant, or he's missed a read here and there. And I think that really helps Gunner get into the game early and often. So that's what my assessment would be here.
Those are good points too. I look at it from the standpoint, if you've got a +1 quarterback, that's more defensive stuff that you have to prepare for defensively. When you have a quarterback that's got a duality play, they don't realize there's a lot of differences in inside zone versus duo versus QB power when you have the jet back going with the power that you're running, versus what's called bash counter, where you have guys pulling opposite of the way that you're going to end up running based off the person you're reading. So there's a lot of different ways, and people get those confused, and it's understandable because it's football. It's X's and O's, and they're not meant to understand. That's the reason why I do the breakdowns on my show, to show you those kinds of things. But when you have a +1 quarterback and you have to account for him, not only just on those kind of plays, but on just in zone in general. When Carson Beck was our quarterback, if I'm a defensive coach, I never worried about taking care of Carson. I would send both linebackers zone backside every time. And when they're offset at 45, it's a lot easier to dictate that, because very seldom does an offensive coordinator continue to get the ball in zone from the right side and stay right side. Now, they may backside cut to the right side, but you have linebackers, because you have no worry about Carson Beck pulling the football. Gunner can. So that keeps, now you have to be disciplined with the backside backer to sit and not be able to flow to the football. You lose a guy in space in the box because of that, because he has to worry. Gunner could pull it any second now, and you've seen what he's done on the backside of zone pulling the football. Go back to the Ole Miss game. What a huge run for him. That touchdown run he had was just a zone pull. So that's something you have to think about. You have to look at him as a +1 runner, and you have to run it enough to make them honor it. So that's why you're seeing him run those quarterback sweeps. And tonight they did it a little bit differently. They brought Dylan Bell from the wide receiver position instead of just the running back across his face to run the Q power reads and stuff like that. So it takes a little bit longer to develop those kind. But I think we did, for the most part, we ran it pretty well. But you got to do that when Gunner's he's a really good running back that can throw the football. And when you've got a kid that's like that, you definitely want to utilize him in his specialities with that. So, well, guys, again, I appreciate you being in here with us tonight. Coming from the game from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, seeing the game from the end zone where I was at. I was in the end zone where Roderick Robinson scored the touchdown, where Zachariah Branch scored the touchdown at. And, it was really nice seeing sort of the tight copy in real time. And I'm really excited to see Malachi Tolliver breakdown. I'm really excited to see what we did defensively, all the different, things that Shu brought against Ty Simpson in the game. But, it's really nice to be a fan of the Georgia Bulldogs, obviously watching them go through the season, grow the way they have, but to put a staple in the end of the season with an SEC crown that now lets us sort of bookend the season with being, 12-1 headed into the playoffs as SEC champions. It's really good to feel, and it's good to see. And I know as Georgia fans, we're all excited for the future of our program. Scott, any finishing words there before we get off the air, buddy?
To make it even better, you do it in such dominating fashion. You redeem the only loss you had to a team that was eating and chewing your hedges, acting like there wasn't a bill that was about to be sent to their mailbox. And today, Georgia came to collect.
Yes, they did.
Congratulations to the Georgia Bulldogs, back-to-back SEC champs. You've earned every bit of it the entire way, and let no one lie to you about, oh, we were injured, this would have happened. Look, the games got played, Georgia won and won big, and that's it. There's nothing else to say. No really reason to talk smack. Just point at that scoreboard like Kirby says and laugh.
It's exciting to be a Georgia fan right now. And as always, we enjoy being a part of this show and getting a chance to share our thoughts into the Georgia spectacle that it is, man. It just, it's really nice to see where this program is going. We are in a great time. I mean, with the new paradigm that's in college football today, with NIL being shared, we're basically almost to the point of being a minor NFL football program. With all the different things that go along with, the transfer portal and what we're dealing with, to see Coach Smart continue to do it the right way, building the program, the culture that he's built there. I mean, you really need to understand how good we have it as fans of the Georgia Bulldogs. I just looked up scores, Scott. It looks like Indiana beating Ohio State currently, and Duke's winning right now as well,
Yeah,
right?
I think they just did offset pistol or booting Julian out, so we'll see what happens. And incomplete. There's only 2 minutes and some change left, and yeah, Duke is beating Virginia.
It's
And see, if
insane.
you're a Miami fan, you're kind of licking your chops because you know that win against Notre Dame is what's going to have you leveraged in. But look, guys, we don't have to worry about anything. You're number 2. You get the bye, get healthy, and continue to take that momentum from Atlanta. I'm telling you guys, this season is special already. No matter what happens moving forward, what Georgia heard and what people said and the way they played from week 1 to week 4 to week 8 to week 10, it's just such a huge testament to not only the players, but the coaches. Like you said, Coach, the culture. Future is very bright in Athens, Georgia.
Well, as always, we're glad you were with us tonight. We appreciate all the comments in the chat. I hope you get a chance to check us out later if you didn't get a chance to check us out live. If you're watching the podcast later, would love to see your comments in the show as well. Please make sure you hit the like button. I would love to get those notifications that gets everything out to you. I am Chris Hayes. Most of you know me as Coach Hayes with Coach Hayes Hudl. Beside me here, my partner is Scott Green. We are Head on a Swivel, and this is Rapid Reaction to Georgia being the SEC champions for the second year in a row against that Alabama Crimson Tide. Would love to to have an opportunity to go forward as we move into the playoffs and have the opportunity to see, like I said, all the questions, comments, all the different concerns that go out there with it. But as always, we appreciate you being with us tonight. As always, take care, God bless, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.